I dream about it. Cliff going over. Regular dream. Haven't had it for some time. Well, we haven't had a big slip for some time. But I'm out on the edge and looking at it and worrying and seeing the cracks and seeing what will go.
I'm walking half crouched along a path that is barely 18 inches wide and that is overhung with rather sharp brambles and walled with nettles and ivy. And just on the right-hand side of this path, bizarrely, are double yellow lines. The traffic wardens here haven't gone crazy. What I'm walking along was once a fairly wide road, but the road has been eroded by the force of nature, by geology, and it's now crumbling at the edge just ahead of me, where it tumbles over a cliff. We're on the Isle of Wight, investigating sleuth-style, the disappearing village mystery. The village is Blackgang Chine.
We're on the southwest side of the island.
Right.
The island is a diamond shape, basically, very simply, and we're on the southern tip of that diamond shape. We're now looking down the southwest coast of the island, through Atherfield, through down to Bryston, to Brook, and then the coast curves round through Freshwater Bay until we see the Needles through the mist here. And then eventually, if you look on a really good day, you can see the Dorset coast. If we'd been standing here in about 1840, so about 160 years ago, we wouldn't have actually seen down the coast, because the right-hand piece of land we can see out to our right jutted out as basically a huge bank of land, and we'd have been staring at the other side of the gorge from this point. And that gorge was 3/4 of a mile long down to the sea. You could walk it down it just about in the 1830s. It was used by fishermen and virtually nobody else, or if legend would have it, smugglers as well. And it was a very wild and desolate place, as it is a little bit today.
I was going to say wild and desolate is exactly the right word. This southwesterly gale, do you think it is? Just
well,
about?
It's certainly blowing a force 6-7 today, yes.
Yeah, it's whipping up the white caps and the sort of wheel marks and the welts there we can see on the... It's not a beautiful blue summer's ocean, is it? It's more of a sort of grey-green colour today. And I'm with Simon Dabell at Blackgang Chine on the Isle of Wight. The note, the roar of the sea, tinged with a bit of sadness for your family, because your patch of land here is being nibbled away fairly dramatically, as you've said, by the wave action, the weather action, the wind, the sun, the frost and everything else that nature can throw at it.
We tend to be a little bit blasé about it, because I've worked here for the last 33 years, and it gets to a point where it becomes a fact of life. But certainly, yes, a very nostalgic stroke sad feeling looking at how much land has gone even the time I've been here. I'm the 5th generation of the Dabells to be running this business.
Right.
My uncle, who's now 86, is still the chairman of the company, comes to work every day.
So was it great-great-great-grandfather who set this theme park up way back when?
It was great-great-grandfather, Alexander Dabell. He came to the island in the 1816 as a very young child, and he decided that the Victorians were just beginning to discover the Isle of Wight by the 1830s, and Alexander decided that this gorge with the view would make a very good focus for people to visit. And so he built in 1842, 1843, he built himself a gift shop at the top of the gorge, and people came along to look at the view and purchase a souvenir of the time.
And to marvel as we are today, I guess, at the raw force of nature, you can't really fail to be impressed by it, even though little bits of your land, and perhaps some years big chunks of your land, disappear down the cliff face there to lie as a pile of broken rock at the bottom.
Yes. Since I've been here, we've lost nearly 200 metres of land. Certainly since the late 19th century, when I suppose people started to measure what was going, we've lost well over half a mile of land. It's nothing we can do about it, to be honest. We call it the ham sandwich effect, actually. Basically, we've got layers of sandstone, which we would describe as layers of bread. Mm-hmm. And in between the layers of bread, we've got layers of clay, or ham, as we would refer to it as. I did this experiment at a local primary school recently, where you pour the water onto the bread and the water goes straight through the bread, but it doesn't come out the bottom because there's the ham in the middle. And then if you hold the bread at an angle, the bread just slides off. And that's basically what's happening. The sandstone slides off, takes the clay with it, and that's how this constant erosion is occurring.
Suddenly geology is very, very straightforward, isn't it, really? I'll never look at a ham sandwich with quite the same look again. just pausing for a moment to listen to the wind, not just whipping up the waves down there in the bay, but also stirring the tops of these tree branches. I think I'd prefer a day like this if it was still and calm and peaceful. All right, might be good for business for you, Simon, but you can almost see the whole process happening on a wild and woolly day like today, can't you?
You can, yes. I mean, you could stand here actually on a day like today, hopefully not too much in the summer, but certainly if we were standing here in January and February and we just had a howling gale and the rain was tipping down, we could stand here and actually watch pieces of the cliff fall off.
Really?
Oh, yes. The last major cliff fall we have here was in '94. Now, that's now 17 years ago, and that was a major fall. We lost something like 120 metres of land in about 4 days.
There's a little hamlet, a little knot of stone and slate buildings just to the far side of this scar, and they today almost look as if they're kind of hunkered down against the wind, just waiting for that inevitable moment where they too are falling over the edge, don't they? What would you say, another 50 years and they'll be gone?
I would think so. That actually is called the terrace, and it actually originally, you'll see the terrace is made up of a series of terraced houses, late Victorian, and actually that terrace has a road running beside it, and that fell away in 1910. But the actual terrace had a further 6 houses, and they've, as the cliff came back, so they've been taken down.
Gorgeous spot. Thank you very much for bringing me up here, Simon. And here's a case in point. This viewing platform has moved back itself.
It has indeed.
In your time, presumably.
This area we've just walked down from the old hotel was referred to as the long walk. Because
short walk,
it's now the short walk. So it's quite incredible how it's changed.
Some people have a compost heap at the bottom of their garden, others perhaps an old brick-built privy. But Alec Dabell has the English Channel. And it's pretty wild today, Alec, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is, but variations, you see. It's never the same 2 days running, and today we have a slightly wilder day.
You know perhaps better than most people what it's like to live at the edge. Not in this house, thankfully, but in your previous abode. You woke up with a bit of a shock.
I wasn't asleep, I was actually having supper, and it was blowing a gale, and my girlfriend at the time sort of said, "What's all that cracking noise?" And I said, "Oh, it's just the wind on the verandas outside." Took no more notice about it. Then the table suddenly lifted, because what had happened, there had been subsidence on the front wall, and the floorboards had lifted the table. So we sort of decided discretion was probably the better part of valour, and beat a hasty retreat. However, it wasn't quite as straightforward as that. Where the front wall had subsided, the front door had been jammed. So I had to get my brother to come down with a sledgehammer. And of course, they came back the next morning and the front wall had collapsed, taken the other 2 walls with it, and most of my bits and pieces were all sort of smashed and squashed. So, but had, as you were suggesting earlier on, it been a few hours later, and had I been asleep upstairs, well, goodness knows what, we may not be having this conversation now.
Is it a constant nagging thought at the back of your mind when you live so close to the edge that one day you could be going over it, or your house could be going over it?
I think if you let it become a constant nag at the back of your mind, then you shouldn't be living there. If, however, like me, you just enjoy being by the sea and you just like the sound, you like the diversity of what the sea has to offer, then you're looking to the positive rather than to the negative. And to be honest, I wouldn't not live by the sea.
But it's intriguing. I mean, we walk down here to this little folly, I suppose you'd call it. You've got a kind of microcosm theme park here in your back garden. This impermanence is being fought against by all of the plants and the features that you've put here in your wonderful garden. So, there's a battle going on here, isn't there, between the impermanence of the place and you're sort of trying to set your stamp on it with flowers and plantings and features and so on like this.
Well, I would never presume to be able to put my stamp on Mother Nature. Mother Nature's far bigger and more significant than I will ever manage to be. However, I'm just trying to work with her.
Let's just see how well roiled up the water has become. It's brown, isn't it, to about, half a mile off, where it's just stirred up with sediment on the bottom, and then a slightly darker steel grey, battleship grey, from there to the horizon.
It is today, but on other days, as we were discussing earlier on, you get around the island race, you get the boats coming round, you get the liners all coming out of Southampton going round. Occasionally HMS Ark Royal comes round, we dip the flag. And so there's a variety of activities, maritime and other. And because of the climate that we do get here, I've got apricot trees over there, peaches, all sorts of things like that we grow here. I can pluck from my trees varying fruits at varying times of the year to enjoy nature's bounty, which is rather jolly, really.
Disappear into a hole. Where you've got soft eroding sands on these exposed cliffs, they're ideal habitat for burrowing insects. Actually, look, there's a dark bush cricket just there.
Yeah, just jumping as we point down towards it.
That actually, incidentally, that's good food for the wasp spider, which has spread along the south coast in recent years. People are finding them in gardens, but particularly along the south coast. But this is also good burrowing ground for burrowing bees and wasps. Some of them are really rare. Perhaps people coming to the beach might be enjoying the beach and might be totally unaware that these beautiful orange and purple and yellow sandy cliffs behind the beach are absolutely teeming full of wildlife.
We've talked on this programme about how the loss of the coastline, the erosion of the coastline can be a bad thing from a human point of view, but it's not bad for everything and everybody. I'm with Robin Lang of the National Trust. This constant churning of the earth creates opportunities for the little beasties that we've seen just down here at our feet.
Yes, it does. It's very much life on the edge for many insects. There's a very rare butterfly called the Glanville fritillary, which is a speciality of the Isle of Wight, which likes to breed particularly on these sandy cliffs. It feeds exclusively on plankton, which is a very common plant you find in your lawns, but it needs a plankton to be quite small, otherwise it's poisonous to its caterpillars. And you get small plants of plankton where the cliff is constantly crumbling into the sea. So it's ideal habitat for them.
If any self-respecting Glanville butterfly took off today, it would be a speciality in the rest of England as well, wouldn't it? It'd be over the Solent in no time at all. And you can almost feel the erosion happening on a day like today, can't you?
Yes, it's very actively eroding. But that's the beauty of the place. You can see it in so many different weather conditions and at different times of year. This is the summer, but we're seeing some of the power of the waves eroding away at the base of the cliff, causing the erosion we've been talking about.
We've come in out of the wind and the rain, although this southwesterly blow is still announcing its presence by throwing big fat raindrops at the windows of the boardroom at Blackgang Chine. And I'm with another Dabell, Dick Dabell. And
this is my 66th season.
Your 66th season, and you're still working every single day.
Yeah. I think the tragedy is that the amount of work that's been put into attractions which are now gone, just slipped away. The actual manual work is quite incredible. And that's the sadness, biggest sadness in my life, I think.
What are your first memories of this place? Your earliest memories?
As a schoolboy, standing up in the whale's jaws, selling empty bottles for the Allen Bay coloured sands at 12, I suppose.
And at the entrance to the theme park, there was a big whale bone that had been washed up on the beach at some point in history and bleached.
Yes. That one, family history says it came in 1842, I think, and great-grandfather bought it for £100, and it took him another £100 to get it here and strip all the flesh off. I think I did a sum last night of in the village there are 31 residences and 17 have gone over.
More than half have disappeared in the time you've been here.
Yeah.
One of the stories, who knows if it's true or not, is that this bit of the coast is cursed. Do you know of the curse, Dick?
Well, the curse, there is a verse about the giant of Chale who cursed it and made the cliffs fall forever thereafter. I curse the hell and I curse the strand, I curse the ground wherein I stand. Nor flowers nor fruit on this earth shall bear, but all shall be dark and waste and bare. Nor shall the earth give footing dry to beasts that walk or birds that fly. But a poisonous stream shall run into the sea, bitter to taste and bloody to see. And the earth shall crumble and crumble away, and crumble on till judgment day.